Now we're going to lift the car into the air on the front. So we came in with our jack here towards the back and lifted up so that we had room to place our jack stand. You want to make sure that it's cradling this beam perfectly and pretty far forward on that beam. Now we're going to go around to the other side and put another jack stand in that same place. So as you're lifting the other side of the car, pay very special close attention to the jack on this side and make sure that it's still secure and not being tipped over. Next we're going to drain the transmission fluid, so we have our pan in place. And right here on the side of the transmission where it says drain, there's a drain plug that we're going to remove. And we're just going to let all the transmission fluid drain out into the pan. So for this you're just using the head of the 3/8 inch drive, and so just remove that drain plug. And it's going to shoot out towards you, and then as it slows down, the flow is going to walk its way back that way, so you want to follow it with the pan. Okay, when it's pretty well drained out, go ahead and put the drain plug back in. It screws right back in. You want to get this drain plug snug, but you don't want to force it on too much. It can force its way into the transmission and it'll just keep going, so just get it nice and snug. Now we're going to remove the shifter. So you're going to go ahead and unscrew the shift knob by turning it counterclockwise. Next you're going to slightly pull that boot over the top of that jam nut if you have one there. And you want to reach in and pull this lower bezel straight out. You want to be careful with these plastic clips on these. So if you can just get your fingers in behind it and pull straight out towards you, then it will start to come out. Then you want to disconnect the cigarette lighter. Next we're using an 8mm socket in order to take off these 4 bolts that are going around the bezel. You want to be careful not to whack up your interior as you're taking these out. With those 4 bolts out of the way, you can remove this bezel. Normally the rubber boot's still connected to it. We've just modified it to go around this short throw shifter. Okay, so we're removing the 4 13mm bolts that are holding the shifter to the transmission. To separate the shifter, you can come from underneath the transmission, as we're doing here with a nice flat edge pry bar, and hit on the bottom of it with a hammer, and that should loosen everything up. Now you can lift the shifter off. So next we'll just be pouring 4 quarts of this pennzoil synchromesh into the top of the transmission here. So with the shifter removed, you can just pour it straight in that way. If you do want to make it messy, you can undo the fill plug on the side of the transmission and pump it up into the side, but this is a lot easier way. So inside the car you want to run a nice silicone bead around the transmission where the shifter is going to mount. Okay, so lower your shifter into place. Also, I have a good friend of mine, Cobra Bob, makes a really nice shifter gasket. If you want to Google him, it's a nice silicone pre-cut one. Just a little shout out there. Just want to put on all the washers and the nuts for the shifter. They're 13mm. Alright, just tighten these all down. Next, install your rubber shift boot. Remember, in this case, we've removed it from its bezel, so this may be one piece on your car. But that's the next piece you want to put on. Install all 4 of your bolts here for this bezel, 8 millimeter.